Today we are here to play the new flight sim game Target for Today. Bombers Over the Right, 1942 to 1945. It's published by Legion War Games. It's designed by Steve Dixon and Bob Best. This is kind of the spiritual successor, if you will, to B-17 Queen of the Skies, a game made, I think, back in the 1980s by Avalon Hill. Not sure on that. I never played that game. You don't need to have played that game to play this game. Now, what we're going to do here today is we are going to just play through a single mission for Target for Today. There are campaign games where you can string a whole bunch of missions together and have a whole history for your bomber and crew. There's even what's called the group game, where you can have more than just your bomber, your single bomber. There are even some campaigns going online, even by the game designer himself, Steve Dixon, where he's putting together whole squadrons of individual players to fly together. But today, all we're going to do is fly a single solitary mission. Now, when you decide to play Target for Today, and you're going to decide to play a single mission, you need to figure out what your target is going to be. Now for today, for this video, I have chosen my target specifically to both give you a good idea of what the game is like and also to try to keep this video as short as it can be. It's going to be fairly long, probably chop it up into a couple of parts. But if I were to just roll at random for the mission, it could take a lot longer because I could get a lot longer mission. However, I am going to show you how to go ahead and find that mission. Let the system do it for you. And you would do that using the Target Listings and Gazetteer book. If you open up the front cover, you'll see right here at the very beginning is something called Campaign Selection. The game itself, perhaps even the air war over Germany itself in World War II, is divided into 6 separate campaigns, each with a different time period, each with different planes to be flown, each with a different Air Force or air base, 8th Air Force out of England, 15th Air Force out of Italy, and the number of missions you would have needed to fly in order to complete your tour. All you would do is roll a single die. Each campaign has a equal chance. Number 2 matches, the die roll matches with your campaign number. You'd say, okay, campaign number 2, May 43 through November of 43. I can fly the B-17F, the B-24D, or the YB-40 out of the 8th Air Force in England. Okay. Once you've determined what campaign you're flying, you would then use the next several charts in this book to determine the specific mission. Now, campaign number 1 is a little bit different in that you're rolling directly for the target itself. The rest of the campaigns, 2 through 6, you actually roll for the target type. Aircraft factory, industry, oil, shipyards, and so on. And then once you've got your type, you would come in here and look and say, okay, aircraft factory targets, airfield targets, and so on. Again, and these are all 1d10 plus 1d10. That's basically you're just rolling 2 d10s. You roll 1 die, and that's your tens die, 10, 20, 30, 40. You roll another die, it's your singles die, 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll get you anywhere from 1 to 100. You'd go ahead and roll. For instance, if we were going to a Campaign 2 airfield target as determined by the other rolls, 73 would put us right here. Romilly-sur-Seine would be our target for that day. But like I said earlier, we're not going to do that today. Instead, I've picked a target. That target is in campaign number 1, the very beginning of the campaign. And in campaign 1, you only have one choice of an airplane, and that's the B-17F, the earliest variant in the war for the B-17. There are 4 other planes that can be flown as of this point. B-24J, YB-40, B-24D, and a B-17G. Each one of them has the ability to be flown in this game. But we're just going to fly the B-17F. It's the plane I have the most familiarity with, and it's one of the easier ones to learn how to fly. This board here is called the battle board. It's where all of your battles with German fighters will take place. It is the main board, the main area in the game itself. There is another board to look at, and that is called the crew placement sheet. Here you get a look at the crew placement sheet for the B-17F. Every plane in the game has its own crew placement sheet. And on this crew placement sheet, as the name would suggest, you place your crew members. Each crew member is represented by a marker. You've got, in the B-17F, you've got a tail gunner, a right waist gunner, a left waist gunner, a ball turret gunner, a radio operator who also has a machine gun, your flight engineer who is also your top turret gunner, your pilot and co-pilot, your navigator, and your bombardier. Your navigator and bombardier also have guns to fire. The B-17 was heavily armed. Additionally, there's one other area on this for markers, and that's fire extinguishers. It is possible, and if not likely, that your fighter will take damage from German, or your bomber will take damage from German fighters. One of those damage causes could cause your plane to start on fire. So there needs to be a way to extinguish that fighter with fire extinguishers. Other parts of this chart, you've got some optional marker areas over there. If you're playing some of the optional rules for more experienced pilots and bombers and navigators and so on, give you some bonuses or negatives. Here in the middle area are a bunch of dice roll modifiers, or situations where you might find some dice roll modifiers, just so you don't always have to necessarily look at the charts. On each of the areas of the plane, or where each of the guns are, you're going to see something called fields of fire. It'll tell you exactly where that gun can fire at. When a plane is coming in at you, a fighter's coming in at you, it'll tell you where you can fire, which guns can fire at it. However, the other area is the bomber formation. Now, what you see listed on the cards, and it's the same on all the cards, is what's called the group combat box formation. It's sometimes known as the spear or spear down formation. You can kind of see how it kind of looks like a spearhead here. And so it's the formation that was developed by the Allies as the formation that gave the bombers the best chance at A, success over the bomb target, and B, defense, mutual defense, so that you could get to your target and back in one piece. We'll talk a little bit more about this in just a second. Like I said earlier, I've already chosen our target for today. We're going to bomb industry in Lille or Lille, France. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, and so I apologize. So once you've determined your target, and once you've determined what bombers you're flying and what campaign you're flying in, there is one more crucial piece of information that you need to determine before you actually take off and start your flight. And that has to do with this formation area here. It's where is your bomber in that formation? Where your bomber is has an impact, and it could have a significant impact on where on what happens to your bomber throughout your flight. You'll see there are three different views of the formation, one from on top, one from head on, and one from the side. And you can see there are three groups of bombers in all of these areas. There is the low cell, the middle cell, and the high cell. The middle cell was considered the lead cell. The low cell was considered the tail cell, or the trailing cell. And again, there are different modifiers, different pluses and minuses depending on where you are. Again, like with targets, It's absolutely okay to just go ahead and select where you want to fly, up to and including if you want to be the mission leader. And that has its own set of issues you need to deal with. But you can also have the system pick this for you. And you do that in this book here, the Games Tables book. This is the book, by the way, we're going to spend the vast majority of our time in. And we'll talk a little bit or a lot bit about this more in a few minutes. But if you open it up and look inside on the very first page, it'll say, hey, what cell do you want to be in? And then based on what cell, what bomber number. Now, I took the liberty ahead of time, again, not only picking targets, but also of rolling for the location of our plane. We ended up in the low cell as bomber number 15. So we're right here in the head-on view, and we're right here from the side view. So we're in the low cell. That's not real great. The low cell has a higher chance of being attacked. But we're also not what's called tail end Charlie, which would even be worse. So we'll be in the low cell. We're bomber number 15. We're flying against Lille, France, and we're going to fly against the Industry. So let's get ready and get this show started.